Good morning, everybody. My name is John Lux. I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida, and welcome to another edition of Film Florida Friday. Film Florida Fridays are interactive conversations about current topics, initiatives, relationship building in Florida's film, television, commercial, photography, and digital media industry. I want to start out by thanking Film Florida President Gail Morgan for allowing us to create Film Florida Fridays. I also want to thank Film Florida members Sandy Leiderman, Christy Andrioni, and M. Denise Simmons for being instrumental in creation of the new series. In a moment, we're going to introduce our guest, and then we're going to ask some questions. And during that time, we're going to ask everybody to keep their microphones on mute to avoid background noise. After we've gotten through kind of some of these initial questions, we're going to open it up to the audience for questions and conversation. At that time, please use the hand raising function on Zoom so we can call on you. We want this to be conversational and interactive, but we also don't want 30 people talking at the same time. So we're going to ask everybody to keep their questions brief. And in the interest of time and out of fairness, we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. And with that, I want to introduce our guest today. Today we have Florida State Film Commissioner Niki Welge. And Niki, you've attended some of our other Film Florida Fridays, but now you're the guest. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to do this today. And I'm thrilled to have see some familiar faces on here and to meet the new folks in the room as well.
Absolutely. So take a minute to introduce yourself. We're going to talk about your time essentially since becoming film commissioner. So give people a little bit of the backstory about how you got to that point.
Sure. So I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I graduated from Penn State and eventually worked in DC for a little bit and then moved to South Florida in 2002 and lived there for about a year before my husband and I relocated to Tallahassee. And so I guess I've lived here for about 20 years and been with the film office for 18 of those. So actually, I really love it here in Tallahassee and consider myself a Floridian at this point. I have a 13-year-old daughter who is super passionate about musical theater. And so my life is literally filled with drama all day and night at work and at home. So I love it.
So how did you become the State Film Commissioner?
My first job in Tallahassee was in the Secretary of the Senate's office. And I actually managed the sound booth during legislative session. That was my first experience working in the Capitol, my first experience with the legislative process. And after that session ended, I applied for a couple jobs in the governor's office, and one was the executive assistant to the film commissioner position. And the film commissioner was Susan Albershart at the time, and she offered me the job, and it was between me and one other candidate that she had narrowed it down to. And she gave me the job because my GPA in college was higher. So I guess I have to thank my parents for that one. But and I tell my daughter that story too. It does matter. And so I was her executive assistant for a couple months, and then was promoted to the communications coordinator position in the office and managed our website and our advertising and our graphic design. And then a few months after that, I was promoted to the production coordinator position, and where I handled our sales tax exemption administration and the location requests and all the production requests, and did that for about a decade until I was promoted or appointed the Interim Film Commissioner in 2014. And I've been the film commissioner, I guess now for 5-6 years at this point, do the math.
And so the State Film Office, or the official name is the Florida Office of Film and Entertainment, lives in the Florida Division of Economic Opportunity, or DEO. Help people understand the reporting hierarchy. How does your office fit into the DEO, and where is the DEO in relation to the overall state government?
Sure. So our office, when it was created, it was in the governor's office. And we were in the governor's office in the Capitol until 2011, when Governor Scott was elected, and he created his jobs agency and put our office, obviously because our industry is a job creation mechanism, he moved the Film Commission and the Office of Tourism, Trade, and Economic Development into DEO, the Department of Economic Opportunity. And we are a governor's agency. And so we work directly with the governor's office on policy issues and implementation for what the governor wants to do for the state in terms of economic development.
So it's you and two others in your office, right? Okay.
Yeah.
What's a typical day in the office?
That's a good question. First of all, I have a fabulous team. Danielle Marshall is our production coordinator, and she administers our sales tax exemption program, and she handles all of our Florida production related requests, location requests, permitting, and she is also our Spanish language Latin American coordinator. And then, of course, Susan Sims is our Los Angeles liaison. Susan is our on-the-ground service provider to our West Coast clients. She is our lead salesperson and is, on all time zones. And so she is available basically 24/7. And, Exhibit A for that, Susan is on this call, and it is 6:40 in California. So hi, Susan, thanks for being here, and I hope you're having some coffee. So I'm lucky to have such a great team. Truthfully, to answer your other question about what a typical day is like, we do a lot of Zooms, as you can imagine, but I actually had a face-to-face meeting with a client this week with a filmmaker, so yay for vaccination, and face-to-face meetings again. But really, we're firefighters, and I say that because we put out fires, we're customer service, we do a little bit of everything. Honestly, I can't really tell you what a typical day is like because it changes all the time. Recently, I've had to work with the National Guard. I've had to call a farmer's market in South Florida looking for warehouse space. I had to call the Department of State Division of Historical Resources because a filmmaker I'm working with wants to make sure their TV series is historically accurate. DEP helping with get permission to film at state parks. I had to call a local theater to try to get talent for an indie film that's shooting here in Tallahassee. We do a little bit of everything. No 2 days are the same. Honestly, I think Danielle is now a tax specialist, and Susan is also a therapist. So, it's all in a day's work here in the film office.
That sounds about right. And your office provides a lot of services. So what are some of the highlights of the services that you guys provide?
Sure. One of the biggest things is our sales tax exemption. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it is a point of sale exemption on production related expenditures in Florida. It's really easy to apply for, and it only takes a few days to get a certificate. So if you are producing content in the state of Florida, you need to apply for this. The application's on our website, filminflorida.com, little plug for that. So other than that sales tax exemption, which is awesome and can save you money, we offer a location library. There's thousands of location photos from Florida on the website. We also have a location search form on our website that you can fill out if you're looking for locations in the state. And then we'll send a lead out for you to specific film offices in the region or to the entire state, and have the local film offices in the state compete for your business. So location services is a big one. We also have a production directory on our website where if you're on this call and you're not listed in our production directory, please do that. It's free to get listed, but it's basically our way of providing a list of service providers, industry contacts, crew. Anybody can get listed in the directory if you're based in Florida and you're in the industry. And it's a phone book, it's a listing. But our office can't recommend a particular individual or company to anyone. So if somebody calls me and says, hey, I need an executive producer for my project, who should I call? I have to say, check out our directory online. It's searchable. It's easy to use. And so get listed in that. And other than the directory, we also handle state agency permitting. So if you have interest in filming in a state park or on a state road, if you need to shut down a road, if you are any state property at all is involved with your project, it's good to kind of let me know, and we can facilitate a permit there for you if necessary, and help out. So state agency permitting. On top of that, we have our social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So like us there. We also have an app. So our production directory and our location library are both available on our mobile app, which is for iOS devices, and it's free to download in the Play Store. So feel free to download that app, and then you'll have access to everything on your mobile device, all of our services and those directories in the library. And then of course we have our Los Angeles office. And so Susan is one of our biggest assets, and having her out there on the West Coast, being able to meet face-to-face with our clients and be there in their own time zone is definitely high up on our list of services. What else? I think that's it. Really anything production related that anybody needs, it's all across the board. There's no reason why you can't call us for help.
Well, and also under the Florida Office of Film and Entertainment, there's the Florida Film and Entertainment Advisory Council, the FFAC. For those that don't know, what is that, and how does your office work with the council?
So our council it's a 17-member board where there are appointees, and people are appointed by the governor, by the Senate president, and by the Speaker of the House. And basically the council was created to advise our office on industry trends, and to kind of provide us with feedback and guidance on ways in which the industry, our office could assist and kind of grow. Right now, there are a lot of vacancies on the council, specifically in the governor's office and in the House. And so if any of you are interested in being appointed to the council, let me know, and I can kind of guide you to the appointments questionnaires. But the council meets quarterly, and the meetings are open to the public. And we have a meeting coming up at the end of June. And so if anybody's interested in listening in, the call-in information, they're held telephonically or via Microsoft Teams. You can get the call-in information. It's on our website as well, on our social media channels, and we'll be kind of advertising the meeting again here right before it comes up. It's on the 29th. So feel free to join in if you like. Excellent.
And now I want to connect some dots. So your office has a lot of different industry partners like film commissions, industry organizations like Film Florida, and other state agencies. How does your office work with those partners? What's kind of the role that you play with all of those?
Well, the role of partners is incredibly important. And let me take a step back for a minute. Our council, some of our partners actually give updates in the meetings, including Film Florida, and SAG-AFTRA and IATSE, and other folks as well. So, if you want to hear what's going on with those organizations, the FFAC meetings are a good place to kind of hear that very condensed. But our partnerships are incredibly important. And like I said, Film Florida is one of our most important partners. And along with the more than 60 local film offices in the state, we are all rowing the boat in the same direction. And we all have very similar goals. And, if we're all working together, we can reach those goals sooner, and with less injuries along the way when we all work together. So it's really important. And honestly, we wouldn't be successful without the Film Florida's efforts. And when it comes to marketing and advocacy and networking, it's really important. And the local film office is offering the services that they do on a local level. It really makes, we're all part of the same Florida team, making it a positive production experience when companies are here in the state. We want to make sure everybody has, when we get them here, that they have a fantastic experience and want to continue coming back in the future. And on top of that, our direct industry partners, we also work with, the more ancillary like Visit Florida and Enterprise Florida, and some of those other groups that, because the film and entertainment industry is not only benefits our industry directly, but it also has ancillary benefits, film-induced tourism, and Visit Florida recognizes that. And then, of course, the economic development and the jobs factor, because it is an industry and is majorly impactful on the economy in the state every year. More than $2 billion in wages from our industry employees alone 2 years ago in 2019. I'll be getting the 2020 data this month, actually. So it is a big, that's why Enterprise Florida is involved. Headquarters relocations, we have a lot of brick and mortar industry companies here in the state of Florida. And so it's an important industry for everyone.
And Nikki, you mentioned the local film commission. So let's talk about that a little bit. If someone is starting a project and they're going to film in Florida, do they call you? Do they call the local film commissions? How do you guys play together? How does that all work?
We do play together. In my opinion, I think it makes sense to start with us. And the reason I say that is mostly because if you are a little bit unsure about where you want to locate your project, we can help you with that. We can, like I mentioned before, we can send, if you're still looking for locations, we can send a lead out to a region of the state or to the entire state and have the film offices communicate with you directly with the assets that they have in their market. And I mean, if you know exactly where you want to film, you're like, okay, I really want to shoot in Orlando, you can contact the Metro Orlando Film Office directly, but you have to remember that if you need a sales tax exemption or if you need assistance with state agency permitting, things like that, you still have to come to us. So it doesn't hurt. And we can obviously guide you in the best way and hopefully help avoid some of those fires that I was talking about earlier in the conversation.
Excellent. So I get this question asked probably second of all the questions I get is, why doesn't the state film office do this or do that? Can you explain just in general the chain of command within the state government in terms of messaging and initiatives?
Yeah, sure. So, okay. So I mentioned earlier that we're a governor's agency, and that's important to remember. Because we are essentially, because we're housed in the governor's office, we're a governor's agency. And so when it comes to legislative issues, policy issues, we take direction from the governor's office. And so if the governor's very simply, if the governor does not come out in favor of something, or if it's not a part of his legislative budget request, then it's not something our office can advocate for or ask for. And so that is why people contact me all the time and say, how can I get more involved? What can I do to affect change when it comes to legislative issues, incentive issues? And I always tell them that it's important to communicate with their legislators to let them know, one, that you're a voting member in their community, so your senators and your representatives, that you're a voter, that you live in their district, and that your job and your house and your mortgage and your kids' college funds and everything reside on your employment in this industry in the state. And I recognize that communicating with a legislator is not, it can be intimidating. And so a part of that conversation is encouraging them to join, to reach out to you, John and Gail, and to join Film Florida, and to do it right away. Because now is the time between legislative sessions to join, learn about Film Florida's advocacy efforts. Your organization has one of the loudest voices when it comes to legislative advocacy in the state of Florida. You and the work that you've done, John, communicating with legislators, and your team of government relations folks are, kind of at the forefront of that effort. And you also have ways for folks to get involved, and a legislative toolkit that can help make talking to your local legislator less intimidating, providing guidance and ways to accomplish that. So I appreciate all of your efforts on all of our behalf on when it comes to that. So just keep on doing it and communicating, and then hopefully eventually we'll be successful in continuing our legislative efforts as an industry.
And sometimes I have to explain to people that, and you had mentioned if it's not part of the governor's initiatives or the governor's budget, which is a very, very, very few things, your hands are tied. And a lot of times it's just neutral is the way you have to stay, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And so we can't go out and advocate for something that the governor is not advocating for. So it does make it difficult for us sometimes. But that's why it's so important for industry folks to be going out there and speaking their voice, and Film Florida is a good way to amplify that.
And it's worth mentioning, that's just not you, that's all of DEO, that's all of the state government. That's how it has to operate up there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Every governor's agency, you're speaking with the governor's voice.
Right, okay.
And that's important to remember.
And so, let's talk a little bit about the incentive talk. As hard as your office works, the fact still remains that Florida is the only state in the Southeast without a program to attract these projects to our state. And we're only one of 17 states without a program in the entire country. How frustrating is it for you when you're trying to bring projects to Florida, knowing one of the most important sales tools is not in your toolkit?
Well, it's been 5 years since our incentive sunset. And yes, it is frustrating, especially when a project is written for Florida or, is supposed to take place here. Luckily, there are so many things in Florida, so many locations in Florida that are very difficult to recreate outside of the state. It's hard to double for Florida. And so, in fact, there is a project that's filming in North Carolina coming up this summer that is set in the state of Florida, and they are struggling to find locations that look like us. And I'm not surprised. And so, and I'm also kind of amused, but they are, that's part of the reason why we get bits and pieces of larger projects here in the state that are set here, because we are so unique and have so many assets that other states don't have. And so that is one way that things have just kind of kept going for us in terms of the industry growth. And we have so much to offer. Also, it is still cost effective to do business in the state of Florida, between our business-friendly tax climate, and our deep and talented crew base and talent base here. If you go to a state that doesn't have the infrastructure, even if they have an incentive, you're going to pay more to film there, to do business there, because they don't have the assets that we have here when it comes to infrastructure, talent, and crew. And so it can still be cost effective to film here. Outside of that, many of the local film offices have created local incentive programs that have helped to encourage production activity in their markets. And some of those have been wildly successful in continuing to attract production activity to those specific areas in the state. And that benefits everyone. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Governor DeSantis reopened the state of Florida during this pandemic so much earlier. He opened it in September of 2020. And we were open for business way before many other states and countries were open. And because of that, production activity in the state has just grown exponentially over this last year. We are incredibly busy. This summer, there's going to be production activity all over the place. And so that is something that we have taken advantage of. And not only has there been increased production activity here, but it has encouraged industry, organizations, companies, and individuals to relocate to Florida because we were open. And so everybody was envious of us, and we were happy about that. And part of that, I will say and thank your organization for creating the Safe Sets guidelines, filming during COVID. That really showed that, yes, we were open, but that it was also safe to come and film here. That guidance, I think, was beneficial for everyone. And it's been smooth sailing over the last year here in the state. So,
and I mean, to that point, obviously everybody would like to have a statewide incentive program, but what I always tell people is, as hard as we're going to push to get that back, we can't wallow in what we don't have. And so we still need to focus on growing the industry as best as we possibly can. And look, nobody's going to argue that it's just as, easy to compete with the likes of Georgia and Louisiana and North Carolina as it, here without that program. There's no argument about that. But that doesn't mean we just sit back and say, well, I guess we can't do anything. We still need to fight. We still need to focus on what we do have, as opposed to always just complaining about what we don't have. And so I think there's that balance between the two. So
yeah, absolutely. And we had to pivot, right? When the incentive went away, we had to pivot and start focusing on selling what Florida has always had and what we've always been. Our diverse and beautiful locations, our 600 miles of beaches, our services, the infrastructure, local film offices. Our office existed before and incentives were even an idea in people's minds, and have offered services for 20 years at this point. And so it's important not to focus on that and to sell. We're lucky that we're in Florida. So, because we have everything that it takes to make a successful project, and we're continuing to focus on what makes us great.
Excellent. So for everybody in the audience, we're close to the end of our scripted questions here that we kind of had pre-prepared. If you have questions for Niki, please hit that hand raising button and we'll get people lined up and we'll start bringing people in as soon as we're done with here. So Niki, though, tell people, how can they get in touch with your office if they have a question or need something?
Sure. Well, obviously our social channels, which I mentioned before, are a great way. I have lots of folks connecting with me on LinkedIn and communicating with me that way, which is relatively new. And of course, you can email me or call me, and you can go to our website and get my contact information. Or we could have face-to-face meetings, yay, which is great, or a Zoom. My door is always open. And, our office is not just in 8 to 5, obviously, because we have Susan in LA. So you can reach out to any of us and we're all happy to help.
Excellent. All right. So Susanna, we're going to start with you. So I'm going to add you to the spotlight so you're on camera. Go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Niki. Thanks for all the great information.
Sure.
I was wondering, can you tell me some of the productions that are going to be filming in Florida this year?
Well, that's a great question. I don't want to I can't necessarily be like, ta-da, but there's some major television series that are going to be from a major studio. They're going to be filming in South Florida. That we're still actively working on, things we're waiting to get greenlit. There's a ton of Spanish language content that's constantly filming down in South Florida. we have commercial activity. Commercials are our bread and butter. And so because we have sunshine, green grass all year round, there are 1,000 commercials that film in the state every year. And all year round, when there's snow up north and it's freezing and it's 65 degrees and sunny here, that's one of our biggest assets, our weather. And then there is, so reality TV, non-scripted series are also a huge thing for the state. HGTV might as well just have their headquarters here. They are constantly filming, beach, house hunters,
beachfront bargain hunters.
Every real estate show possible. And of course, there's lots of other reality series that are some that are currently filming now. I think they rebooted Miami Housewives and Siesta Key, and there's all sorts of fun shows that are filming in the state right now as well. But and then of course I would love to promote that David Makes Man, the second season of David Makes Man is going to be coming out on the OWN network later this month. And it is in a few days actually going to be premiering. And the entire series, both the first season and the second season, shot in Orlando. So we're excited about that. And we just recently just plug all sorts of fun Florida projects. I just recently saw a trailer for Reminiscence with Hugh Jackman, which did some filming down in Miami. The story takes place in Miami and the trailer looks really cool. But we also have some trailers for other stuff that shot here in the state on our website, on our homepage, so you can check that out as well. But lots and lots of stuff. I'm just not necessarily able to share with you the titles right now.
I understand. Yeah.
If you check our social channels, stuff comes out that we're allowed to talk about. We just promote the heck out of it. So, and so does John on Film Florida social media as well. So, so keep tuned to that, and you'll get more information.
Okay, great. And the Home Shopping Network too is still going.
Yes.
In that, as far as that's gone. I think
yes, and they employ tons of folks. Sorry, I missed what you said.
Oh no, my husband just has a question. How much?
Okay.
Tax incentives.
Oh, I think she said there's no statewide. How much are the actual tax incentives? But you were saying there's nothing statewide.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Yes, there's nothing statewide, but the local film offices, some of them do have incentives, and you can go to our website and Film Florida's website and get a list of those local incentives if you're curious what those are. It's under local resources.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so all right, Earl, I'm gonna bring you up here. And Earl, I can't showcase you up here. It's not giving me that option. So go ahead and unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask your question.
I'm unmuted. Good morning, everybody. Nikki, I look at a lot of other state websites, and they have a thing where they say, this project is what's coming. Here's who to contact. Here's what's shooting. Here's where to send your resume. What prevents Florida from doing that?
So we used to do, whenever we had a financial incentive program, as part of that program, we got that information and shared it when we could. For the same reason I couldn't answer Susanna's question, we don't put stuff out there that's still confidential or not, the companies are not ready to shout it from the rooftops. Whenever we do get information like that, if they request it, if they're doing a crew call or a casting call, we will post that information out there. We obviously communicate directly with the unions, with the business manager for the IA, and SAG-AFTRA has a brand new business director as well in Miami, who I've been working with. And we communicate with them regularly to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we're all kind of working together. But one of the main reasons we don't have that up there anymore is that we don't have that statewide incentive where that's a part of that conversation, where we're requiring them to provide us with that so that we can put it out there. We also don't issue permits. And so because we're not handling permitting, we don't necessarily have that information to share. Some of the local film offices do that because they issue permits. Does that make sense, Earl?
A little bit.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we have a question that was sent in on email ahead of time. So Niki, this one talks about tangible taxes, and you and I actually exchanged emails on this because I had sent this to you. So go ahead and talk a little bit about tangible tax and how we can make it a little bit better for our industry if possible.
Okay, so we talked about the sales tax exemption, which is when you're out there purchasing or renting gear. If you're spending money on set design and construction, props and wardrobe, real estate rental, all of those things qualify for the sales tax exemption. Now, tangible tax is different because it is for, it is something that a company would have to pay if they are, if they have an inventory where they are leasing out goods to other entities. And so if you are a company that has equipment that you're renting or leasing out to other entities, you have to pay tangible tax to the state of Florida. That is not something that that there is an exemption for at this time. As far as I know, for our industry specifically, I did a little bit of research into the tangible tax, and there's some information on the Department of Revenue's website about potential exemptions. If you pay your taxes before April 1st, and I'm not a tax expert, so I don't have, on the tangible tax, I don't have a lot of information about that. But I know the Department of Revenue's website does have information about tangible tax. But that's something that I completely understand, why that would be relevant and important to a service provider that has to pay those tangible taxes. And so it's something that we can keep in mind moving forward.
Yeah, and Rob, I think I saw your name come in here. So I am going to talk with some other people, some other legislative contacts to see what the appetite is in Tallahassee about tangible tax issues. Because taxes, they always have a huge tax package that goes through every year. And it can't hurt to ask them if they have any interest in looking into this issue. So, so thanks for sending in that question. All right, Elizabeth, I'm gonna spotlight you. It doesn't let me spotlight if you don't have your camera on. So if you want me to spotlight you, you gotta turn your camera on, but otherwise you can unmute yourself, Elizabeth, and go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to get into like government, too much, but ever since they did take the incentives away, I've been, talking to people, and they say to get in touch with your legislators. I don't live in South Florida, like Miami area or Orlando, but that's where I work as an actor. So my legislator here in the Fort Myers area is not going to be able to help that much. The other thing is, and so can I write those people in the other legislators in the other parts that do get film?
Niki, you want this one or you want me to take it?
Well, I can start.
Okay.
First of all, Elizabeth, thank you for your question. You absolutely should reach out to your Fort Myers legislators because they're just as important as the legislators in South Florida, Orlando. It doesn't matter. They have their vote counts just as much as your senator and your representative in your home where you live. And you can actually look up. You can go to the Senate's website and look up who your local legislators are, and John can help you with that too.
Yeah, he has, yes.
Okay, so please don't hesitate to reach out to your legislator. The reason it matters more is because you're a voter. You're a voter in their district, and they care more about people in their district than they do about people who live in outside areas. So, I mean, reaching out to the legislators in South Florida or Orlando, it could have an impact, but less so because you're not a vote for them.
And Elizabeth, I might even argue,
re-election.
argue that reaching out to the folks in Southwest Florida is more important, because sometimes we get feedback from legislators that says, well, your industry really only does work in South Florida and Central Florida and the Bay Area, maybe Jacksonville, and that's about it. But if you are a constituent in Southwest Florida and you're showing your local legislators that this industry impacts you as a resident in Southwest Florida, it might actually get a little bit more attention from that legislator as opposed to someone that lives in South Florida or Central Florida. So shoot me an email after this, and let's trade some notes, and let's make sure you have all the information you need. And I can look up your legislators and make sure you have all the information that you need.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just have something else I wanted to say.
Okay.
Since this has been happening, though, I hear, get in touch with your legislators, that it's been years and years and years now. Okay, what's happening with that we're getting in touch with people? What's going on? Is our governor budging at all? I mean, what is going on? This is years now that we're getting in touch with our legislators, and still that's all you ever hear is get in touch with your legislators. Is anything happening?
Niki, you want this or you want me?
I'm going to defer to John on this, because the legislative advocacy point has landed squarely on Film Florida's shoulders. So John, go ahead and give an update on what you guys have been doing, which is a lot.
Okay, so Elizabeth, if we're going to grade on pass fail, then obviously we haven't gotten a bill passed. And so if that's the measure, then that's the measure. But what I will tell you is that progress has been made. Momentum is building. This last legislative session, we had more co-sponsors on our bills than almost any other bill that was filed this year. It's important to keep in mind that every year over 3,000 bills are filed. And this year was a high number of bills that got passed, and it was still less than 10%. Most of the time it's around 5%. So the likelihood of any bill, no matter what the issue, no matter what the ask is of passing, is actually very small. And so, look, is anybody satisfied with the progress we've made over the last 5 years? No, I mean, of course not, because we haven't reached the ultimate goal. But it is 100% accurate to say that progress is being made. And when we say contact your legislators, that's why we have built momentum, and we have built co-sponsors, and we have built support. We still need more support from legislative leaders, and we're continuing people individually. Whether it is our government relations team that we have. So a lot is being done. And so if you only want to grade on pass fail, then you know what the results are in that we haven't passed the bill. But yes, progress is our right direction, and hopefully we're going to get there.
Okay, should we, I mean, is there any way that we can light a fire under our governor? I mean, he just doesn't seem to be interested at all.
We are, I don't know. I think our government relations team continues to have conversations with the governor's office. We're trying to get the governor on some set visits. That's a really important thing, is to actually show tangibly what a production does to a local community. And so we're working on trying to find, the right scheduling, the right projects, the right location, the right time of all of these things, of coordination, and trying to get the governor and other legislative leaders on sets so they can see what this actually is. But again, the governor has very few actual real priorities. I mean, you could count them in a handful, on one hand. And so, yes, we're trying to light a fire, and yes, we're trying to raise the conversation, and yes, we're trying to do all of those things. And that's why you should join Film Florida, so you can know all of these things and be part of our legislative committee and be part of the conversation. You can hear all these things that are happening on a daily basis.
Right. And I follow you all the time, and I have you
following's not the same as joining and participating.
I think I did join, I'm not sure, but okay. I donate all the time. I do what I can. I'm 60 something years old. I don't want to say my age. So, I mean, if this isn't going to happen in the next 10 years, I'm going to have a problem with getting work as an actor. But anyway, the thing is that a lot of, I've got famous people in my family and stuff, and they do not like Florida, and that's because of the government and all the laws that he's passing against people, certain people and stuff like that. So, unless we change our attitude on how we feel about all kinds of people in our state, we're not going to get those big productions down here because they're not going to want to work for a state that's so unfair to
Well,
others.
Elizabeth, I think it's all part of the puzzle that we are continuing to work towards to get more business and more jobs and more opportunity for everybody. So I think I need to move on to Dwayne though, because we got a couple other people that want to ask some questions. So Elizabeth, I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and then Dwayne, I'm going to pull you up since we do have you on camera. So go ahead, Dwayne, unmute yourself. Actually, I might need to ask you to unmute. There you go. Go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Forgive the appearance. I just got done working out. So I got a two-part question for Miss Niki. First question is, isn't it true that there's still a tremendous value to shoot in Florida for these productions that are under, let's say, $1 million? Some of the smaller indie productions, and if you could call them like startup type media. That's my first question. And second question is, Miss Niki, what are you binge watching right now? Just curious.
That's a fun question. So to answer your first question, yes, absolutely. There's still tremendous value. And the reason being that the sales tax exemption can save you 6 to 7.5% right off the top. So that's one thing. And then the local incentives in the state are tailored more for independent projects that are in that budget range. And so you can get cash rebates and things like that from those local film offices. And that is, that price point is really effective for smaller projects. And that's why so many independent films have been produced here in the state over the last 5 years. Because those local incentives matter to a smaller project like that. It's, maybe a drop in the bucket to $100 million film, but to a smaller budget, that can really make a difference. And so, and then of course, all the reasons why I talked about it being cost effective to film here to begin with, the fact that there's local crew, amazing talent. You don't have to bring people in from out of state, which gets costly and expensive. We have the infrastructure here to support a project. You can have a positive experience here and save money at the same time. And so it is, those are all the reasons why it is still inexpensive to film here at a smaller price point. So that, to answer that question, and to answer your, what am I binging? Like 10 shows, I'm all across the board on all sorts of different things. I kind of have ADD and can't stick with one thing. But if I seriously, 10 different things. I just started watching Sweet Tooth on Netflix. I don't know if you know what that is, but it kind of has a pandemic element to it, but the show is really good. And but I'm an avid reader. And so I'm actually reading Dune right now because it's on my daughter's reading list for this summer for school. And the book is like this thick. And it's sci-fi. And of course the movie's coming out later this year as well. So none of that's really Florida related, but I'm a junkie when it comes to content. So TV and books I'm constantly reading. So.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne.
Yeah. What are you watching, Dwayne? And do you have any recommendations? I'm looking forward to watching David Makes Man later this month for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I stumbled on, and it came up in the Netflix queue. Was the new show? Well, it's not really a new show, but Netflix bought it, Startup, and I don't know if people on here know, but I mean, all of that is set in Miami, but I don't think they shot much of that in Miami. When I watched the credits, it seemed like they shot a lot of that in Puerto Rico, but all of that is set. It's called Startup. Yeah, it has.
Okay.
It's got a brilliant cast. I mean, I binge watched all 3 seasons in like a week. So I mean,
wow.
I started it, and I was hooked from the first episode and said, okay, I got to see what's happening. But it's all set up in Miami with different pockets of economic people, and they kind of converge into trying to start up a tech company, and a lot of twists and turns, and different threatening of life and high stakes. So it made it. And what was interesting about it for me, just wanting to shoot everything I want to shoot here in Florida, that it's set in Miami, and I always wondered how much. I mean, I could tell that some of the stuff was stock footage that they pulled, but still, it's still interesting to try to figure out, how much did they really shoot here in Florida and shoot in Miami.
I just saw Sandy raise her hand. That Sandy.
Yeah,
Commissioner.
I can
Sandy.
answer that. None of it was shot in Miami. In fact, we don't know if the stock footage was shot in Miami either, or they bought stock footage because we have no permits on it. So, and we've inquired with the other film offices. So yeah, basically nothing was shot in Miami except maybe, some stock footage.
Well, there you go. Okay, so we're going to move on. I got an email question, then we're going to go to Taylor, because Taylor raises his hand next. Says, Niki, this is from Hugh. Many of my experienced, talented film and entertainment professional friends are exiting California. I escaped in 2019. Like me, they want to make Florida the new home and hub. Georgia has incentives, but not quality of life for East Coast production. What can be done to ensure the talent comes here and not Georgia? What's the best way to get people working quickly?
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that you left. That you left California. You are not alone. I think 14% tax and $5 gas per gallon is driving folks out. So we're happy to have you here in the state of Florida. Honestly, we just gonna keep working hard to, what we do every day is for all of you, right? We're working for each and every one of you every day to try to make the environment here a positive work environment for folks, working with our partners to ensure that there are resources out there for everyone if they relocate here, that there are opportunities here. When someone reaches out to me for the first time and says, what can I do? What's the best way for me to get a job here in the state and the industry? Networking is always the first thing that I say. Joining industry organizations like Film Florida and other organizations, because so much about this industry is who you know and the connections that you make and kind of breaking into it that way. And so reaching out to local film offices and making sure that you're on every list and every directory that we have, and just being out there, putting yourself out there. So just in general, those are kind of the ways to get jobs or to be more involved with the industry in the state. But honestly, there's no magic way that it's going to make our state be successful in the future. We just kind of have to keep doing what's working and keep on going to try to encourage production activity in the state, to sell the heck out of what we've got, and work together with our partners to make sure that the experiences are positive here. I know that's not a direct answer, but I just got to think that our positivity and our services that we provide and our and the way that Florida is a great place to work and live, and that's our motto. Making Florida, that's the state of Florida's motto, right? Florida, the best place to work and live and experience things. So luckily Florida kind of sells itself.
All right,
Well,
Taylor,
Could I just say real quick, thank you, Niki, for the time today, and thank you, John, for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Thank
Good
you.
to hear from you, Hugh. Taylor, we're going to go back over to you. I can't spotlight you because you have your camera off, but if you want to go ahead and ask your question, go right ahead.
Absolutely. It's interesting that the last question was about competing with Georgia. I'm a filmmaker and consultant born and raised in Georgia and have done projects and relocated infrastructure projects to Georgia for years, and came to Amelia Island because it's so beautiful. And I'm hoping to, be a part of positive change. I just really want to piggyback really quickly on what Niki said, and Florida does sell itself in a lot of ways, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. My question is, given, the exodus from California and the opportunity to build, sustainable film communities outside of the traditional markets, i.e., New York and California, what other opportunities could there be on the horizon, not dependent upon tax incentives, and more so, I think when it comes to sustainable content production, having above the line decision makers located in a area, investing in content, writing content, set for an area can be a game changer in a lot of ways, both for, the direct economic impact of hiring professionals to shoot production, and then the ancillary and tourism impact later if it's popular. Has anyone in the Florida state office considered incentivizing or working with programs to foster content development and investment in the state?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Taylor, all that is spot on in terms of having decision makers here and writing content for Florida. I mean, let's be honest, right? Florida writes its own scripts because this state is crazy. And crazy stuff happens here, so much drama all the time. And so there's so many Florida stories because of that. But yes, you're right. And when it comes to content development, there's actually a couple different programs that have recently started. One by Film Florida, actually, to help kind of foster script writing and emerging filmmakers, and there's another program as well, and out there that's working for that can help you go through the script writing process, and it is helping kind of develop Florida stories from the ground up. So I have information about both of those. If those programs, if somebody wants to, if you're curious about it, you can send me an email. And they're not affiliated with our office in any way, but there are resources out there for kind of developing those stories on the ground up. John, do you want to give a little spiel about your emerging filmmaker program?
Yeah, the Emerging Filmmakers Fund is something that was started beginning of this year, and it's small. We give grants in the amount of $500 to $1,000 to emerging filmmakers. It's exactly what it is. It's meant for kind of beginning people in the industry, and there's information on our website about what you have to submit and kind of the evaluation process. And we have a number of people within our organization that evaluate and either accept or reject based on a lot of different criteria that they have. And but I mean, to your point, Taylor, is there's a push to, not that we're neglecting those veterans in the industry, the people that have been working for decades, but it is important to nurture the next generation, because hopefully we're bringing out some great new blood that will stay here, as opposed to running immediately to the biggest and best incentive state, because those things are cyclical. And we're just trying to lay the groundwork to make sure that we have the right people here for the future. So, okay, I want to move on to our next question. We have a couple more, and Niki was kind enough to be able to stick around a little bit later than the 1 hour. So we want to make sure we're getting as many people in. Miranda, again, I can't, there you are. Okay, you moved on me. So add spotlight, there you go. And then go ahead and ask Niki your question.
Great. Thanks, John, so much. Hi, Nikki. Nice to meet you. My name is Miranda Roldan. And to piggyback off, I'm a transplant from New York City. I just moved down to Florida in September of 2020 with my fiance, and the pandemic pushed us out. And my line of work, I'm an actor. And so I'm trying to get as involved as possible in Florida. This is our home now. We absolutely love it. And my question is, I joined a couple minutes late, so you may have gone into this, but you've mentioned that you had some openings coming up. And I'm just curious as to if someone like myself was to get involved, what would that look like? What would that entail? If you could elaborate a little bit more and clarify.
We don't have any openings. I'm not sure what, if we didn't talk about anything.
So I think when I joined, it was like, we have some just more ways to get involved, that like some hearings that maybe we could attend, or I apologize if I don't have the right verbiage.
No problem. No problem. I just wanted to make sure I was answering your question. Okay.
Right.
So what I was talking about was our advisory council. And we have quarterly advisory council meetings that are open to the public. And so people can join in. That's definitely one way to get involved, but I would say a more effective way to get more involved is to join Film Florida, mostly because they have networking events and things that our office does not. Our advisory council is not really networking. I mean, it's more informational. You're going to hear updates from what our office is doing, what our LA office is doing in terms of sales or sales tax exemption updates, and then you'll hear kind of overall updates from different organizations in the state, but Film Florida has quarterly meetings that are more industry related and networking, and they actually I'm sure John will plug them, but they have their own meetings are coming up next week, actually Thursday and Friday of next week for members, and for the board meetings are open to the public as well. But those meetings are an awesome way to connect with industry members, organizations, leadership in the state, participate in those meetings. And so it's a great way to get more involved. And it's also important for you to reach out to your local film commissioner. I'm not sure what part of the state you're in, but we have a list of local film commission contact information on our website. Every film office in the state is on there. And so you can reach out to the local film office that in your area or the areas that you're interested in working in, and get on their lists and get in their directories, and make sure that they know that you exist, because you can communicate with them if they have casting calls that they put out, and make sure that you like our social channels, because if we are communicated with for casting calls or crew calls, we'll put them out on our social channels as well. So there's lots of different ways to get involved and to meet folks in the industry. And those are just kind of like the top ways to kind of get yourself out there and participate in industry related stuff.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. One quick question for John that I think will be helpful for the group too. I did join Film Florida, and I found out about this meeting, which is amazing. John, when it comes to reaching out to legislation, is that kind of like a revolving door, like reach out whenever, or is there a better time to reach out than others? I just want to be very strategic.
Great question. Now is the time. If it is very frustrating to get the volume of emails the day before legislative session starts and say, what can I do to help? It's all but too late at that point. Now is the time. Typically when you get a meeting with a legislator, whether face-to-face or on Zoom, they're usually 10, maybe 15 minutes. I had 2 of them this week that were longer than a half hour. And it's because they have time now. They're back in their district. They're on summer break, basically. So now is the time. I cannot emphasize that enough, that now is the time to reach out to me and just send me your home address and say, who are my legislators? And I have all of the information, that I can just literally copy and paste and say, here's who they are. Here's whether they support, here's their contact information, here are their aides, make sure you copy them. I'm here as a resource. Let me be your cheat sheet and to get that information. And so yeah, now is the time. That's a really great question, Miranda. Thank you. And thank you for joining Film Florida.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And I have to say, you really do make it easy for everybody to lay everything out and so that you can tell your story. I really appreciate your help with that. And is there a due date though, John? Like by this date?
Well,
Should
I
we
would
get
say
this in?
the first cut, I kind of treat it like a film festival. You have multi levels of those due dates. The first level is Labor Day. Get it done by Labor Day, because after Labor Day, then they start with some committee weeks, and so they're back and forth between Tallahassee. So I would say first cutoff, first goal is by Labor Day. Second goal is by Thanksgiving. Those are kind of the two windows of opportunity. After Thanksgiving, they're focused on the holidays. And then this coming year, legislative session starts mid-January. So it comes right after the first of the year. So they're going to go from Thanksgiving to the holiday season to beginning of session. And then it's all kind of a blur. So we want to get all of the legwork done before Thanksgiving at the latest.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you
both.
and Nikki made a really good point, and so I'm going to plug our annual meeting next week. We have committee and council meetings on Thursday, the 24th, which are member-only meetings. So if you're a member and you want to participate, you'll get an email about those well, you got emails already, but you'll get the Zoom links and the agendas for those. The board meeting is open to the public on Friday. It's Friday morning from 9:30 to 12 on Zoom. All of our meetings are on Zoom right now. So if you're a member of the public and you haven't joined, first of all, why haven't you joined? And then second of all, just send me an email and I'll get you the Zoom link for Friday's Board of Directors meeting if you're interested in participating in that. So I'm going to go to Robert next, and then we're going to get close to wrapping things up. So Robert, go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, John. Hi, Nikki. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
John
Robert.
and hi. Thanks for your hard work. I know it's not an easy job what you're doing, believe me. And hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm kind of new to Florida. I'm actually still in San Francisco, but we're working with the Florida community right now to bring something that hopefully will help Florida be competitive to states like Georgia. And it's a the tax incentives are a very complicated issue. And there's a lot of moving parts, but I think everybody has the idea of getting involved. I think one of the issues is that there hasn't been a vehicle that allows people to get involved with. I know everybody's eager, everybody wants to know what can I do, and it's difficult to do that in a onesie twosie way. You really have to have a big hammer to move any of this legislation. And they were close. They did a great job. And I know that the Film Commission, John, your work, you guys every day. I know you guys are pinging these guys all the time to try to get them to move. So yeah, kudos to you for what you've done. But Georgia is kicking everyone's ass, not just Florida. But they have, they've been building since I think 2008. They didn't just start all of a sudden, and they started slow. They started with one show, and then they showed the benefits to this, not just to the local community, but also to the legislatures. They need to know, okay, because they're accountable to the taxpayers, and that's who they listen to. But they don't just listen to them onesie twosies. They listen to them as a big voice together, and that's how you do it. But that takes a little while. One of the things that we're doing is we're putting together a campaign that will help people get together with this. And this is coming. It's just something that's got to build. So, and I've had experience with this in Arizona. Unfortunately, Arizona kind of died. They used to have a robust film community that they did a lot of Westerns there. And they lost out. And one of the reasons was a tax incentive, but it's not the only reason. For film production, they need to know, what makes them better. I think the low-hanging fruit for Florida is overflow, right? I think that's what we go after first, is the overflow that's from Georgia, because Georgia can't shoot everything there. They can't. They're already at pretty full capacity. So we can start there. There's a lot of different things that we can do. Anyway, I just wanted to say that there's lots of hope. Florida's an amazing place, and it's an amazing place, and just keep sticking to it and helping John and Nikki and everybody else that's the kind of the tip of the spear, right? Helping everybody out. And don't worry, we'll get it back. The tax incentives are just one piece, but I know behind the scenes myself and there's some other entities that are working towards bringing filmmaking. And I don't want to say bringing, making Florida our own hub, right? We don't want to be Georgia. We want to be bigger than Georgia. That's what we want. We want to be bigger than Georgia. Anyway, I'll be attending more of these meetings and getting more involved. You'll hear more about our campaign that we're pushing. I talked a little bit about this with John and Nikki. So yeah, nice to meet everybody. You'll hear more about what we're doing in the next coming weeks. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.
Good to see you, Robert.
Good to see you. Yeah.
All right, Nikki, as we kind of wrap up, is there any last words you want to share with everybody?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who came today and asked questions, and to remind everybody that my door is always open. I'm going to email everybody, or I'm going to put my email address in the chat to everyone because I've gotten a couple requests for it. So, but it's niki.welge@deo.myflorida.com. So I just sent it to everyone. Feel free to reach out to me. I love to connect with folks, people who I haven't chatted with before, or people who I have, just to reconnect, so that I can answer any questions that you didn't have a chance to ask me today. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I look forward to the meetings next week, which you'll be hearing an update from me on if you participate. In the meetings next week, Film Florida meetings, you'll hear from our office everything we're doing, what Susan in LA, our Los Angeles office, is working on. Susan's updates are always fun. So definitely join us next week to get more information. And
Excellent.
I hope everybody has a great day, and I'm happy to be here.
And we're going to take the month of July off from Film Florida Fridays, but we're going to be back in August, and we have some really great guests lined up for August, September, October, November. So make sure you keep an eye out for those once we get further into the summer, and make sure you register. I sincerely want to thank all of our Film Florida members. A lot of you were on today that are members, and we really appreciate it. As you all know, we're a volunteer-driven organization that's funded entirely by our members. So without the ongoing support of those members, we don't exist. So if you're not a member of Film Florida, we hope you'll consider joining. You can go to filmflorida.org. Student memberships are just $25 a year. Individual memberships are $75 annually, and corporate memberships start at $500. Keep up with everything we're doing on our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And finally, make sure you're listening to the Film Florida podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and the iHeartRadio app. Thanks again for being here, and stay safe and healthy. Bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.